Welcome into the Sports Report. I'm your host, Emily Peters, and welcome back. Today, I am playing for you an interview I have been sitting on since the very beginning of the Friday Night Rivals season. It is Bill Ragans from Chiles High School. Coach Ragans goes way back here in Tallahassee. Anyone that's listening right now that has been here for a while, that has been a Florida State fan for a while, probably knows Coach Ragans. He was a defensive player. He played D-back and some safety, I believe, at Florida State from 86 to 90. He actually played with our color analyst, Eric Llewellyn, and now he is Chiles High School's head coach. And he's been involved at Chiles for the past 6 or 7 years as a defensive coach, and he is in his interim year as the head coach. So it's not official yet. They should actually be making the decision very soon as we, approach the end of the season here. And Chiles did really well this season. Their record is 5-4, but I don't think that properly reflects how talented and how well they did. I had Coach actually reflect on his time as a coach just, a couple weeks ago. And he said, I've worked with this team for a while. It's not necessarily new to me. There weren't many surprises. He said, I knew that we'd have a really good defense, which they did. All 5 of their wins actually were shutouts. So, they had a very strong defense. He said it was going to be more about getting their offense acclimated to the varsity level. They have a new quarterback, Taylor Jacobs Jr. He is extremely talented. He's very athletic, and he had a lot of weapons this year. So I don't want to give too much away right here in the open. So, we'll talk a little bit more about the season they had after I play this interview for you. So, and I'll let Coach Ragans talk about his program. So anyway, let me go ahead and welcome in head coach of Chiles High School, Bill Ragans. Well, thank you for joining me on the podcast. I'm really excited for your first season. I guess to start, just how excited are you for this opportunity to lead the Timberwolves this season?
Well, obviously, we have a good group returning. I've been around, coached those defense coordinator the last 6 years, so it's a great opportunity. A little unfortunate, I'm taking over for a friend, but circumstances weren't the best. But I'm going to take full advantage of my opportunity. So I'm excited about it, very.
And a lot of your players probably dream of playing at the collegiate level and then professionally. So you've done those things, you know what it takes. So really, you are an ideal leader for this team. I mean, what kind of advice do you give them so that they can achieve their dreams?
We just try to instill the hard work, the work ethic into them, because nothing's possible. If you don't want to work, at some point that's going to filter up to you. Either between high school, or middle school and high school football. If you don't like to work, it'll catch up to you. And then when you try to go to the next level, instead of, you may have been the best guy on your team in high school, you go to college, everybody was the best guy on their team. Then when you advance to the professional level, everybody was one of the best players on their college team. That's how they end up, getting to play in the NFL. Or whatever league. I played in the World League, but still professional football. And they're really good players that have dedicated a lot of their life to trying to be good at what they're doing. So just the hard work part for me more than anything. We want them to understand you can't get anywhere without hard work.
I definitely want to talk to you about your playing experience at Florida State and also in Germany, because that's really cool. And I feel like that's an experience that not a whole lot of people get. But before we get into that, you also spent time as a grad assistant coaching at Florida State. So how has that experience influenced you as a coach, and what lessons can you take from that, from the university to the high school level?
Something every day I reflect on my time at Florida State under Coach Bowden as just a tremendous leader of men. And then as with Coach Andrews, running his defense when I was playing for him and when I was a graduate assistant. Coach Burnham, Coach Gladden, Coach Amato, Coach Patel, I played with Odell, and then actually he was already coaching when I was a graduate assistant. So, I mean, those guys have just a wealth of knowledge, and you could sit in a room with them and not say a word for 3 years, and I would have been a better football coach just by being there. They're all tremendous coaches, and obviously Coach Bowden is he's legendary as far as what he's done in college football. He's a great man. Just the way he handles his business on a day-to-day basis. He was more obviously worried about the kids than he was what happened on the football field, and I truly believe that he was more concerned what we would end up being as young men as opposed to what we did on the football field. I truly believe that.
I mean, he set the standard,
Yes, he really did.
And listening to you talk about him, and I mean, I'm around the stadium every now and then for football and for some of the other sports working over there. And, I'll see Odell around, and he's just upbeat and chipper, and he's just so happy to be there. And I just feel like it's so contagious.
It really is. And I mean, we had a great day yesterday in the weight room. We got there, and first thing I got some good news on getting a 10th game. We finally were able to secure a 10th game for our homecoming game. And, just good news. And I was out there, all excited in the weight room, and it was literally it was contagious. Like I said, it's contagious. If you're trying to provide energy and if the kids are willing to be a part of it, man, it's electric. And there's no telling what kind of things you can accomplish with just energy and enthusiasm.
Oh, absolutely. And those times almost mean just as much as the actual practice time that you put on the field.
Absolutely.
Let's transition a little bit. When you were hired, something that was important to Chiles was keeping the system in place that you've been developing. What is it about Chiles' football program that's so unique?
I think we have tremendously talented kids, but we may not have the biggest and the most athletic kids, but hard work will a lot of times make the difference in an average kid and a great kid. I would rather have an average kid that works hard and gives his best than a really talented kid that doesn't have the work ethic and won't compete, because that's not the kind of guy you're going to be able to have to depend on in the fourth quarter when the goal's on the line. I would much rather have a kid that's a hard worker, going to give you everything he's got, blue collar kind of guy. And I was not a flashy guy as a player, so I consider myself a blue collar player, and I try to coach that same way. You got to work hard, but in the same breath, I want to make football fun. I want our kids to really enjoy being out there. And football has gotten to be a grind for a lot of people. It's too much hard work and hitting and all that. I want them to enjoy it, because a lot of the chances of a kid going on and playing in college are not very, they're slim. So, very few get to go on 5 to maybe 10%. I don't even know the statistics now. Let's say it's 10%. So we'll have 5 guys this year maybe get to go and play at the next level. I want them to enjoy it while they can. Try to be a kid, do everything you can do. I'm a big proponent of multi-sport athletes. While they're in high school, play everything they can possibly play. One, it develops them as young men and as athletes. And anytime you can get them involved in other sports, it's just building character. And that's the rewarding part for me as a coach. I want to see kids become young men, good fathers and good husbands and good leaders in the community.
Yeah, it's like that saying, it's the hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, and
yeah.
I can just see the old Florida State morals kind of shining through in your coaching approach, and it's really special to see.
I appreciate that.
Let's talk about, I know the quarterback's coach has taken over the offensive coordinator. And I'm curious what your offense will look like this season. Obviously, you're a defensive guy. So what has been your influence on the offense? And then how much responsibility have you given your offensive coordinator?
Well, because I've been the coordinator, and we were really kind of late to the party. I didn't have a chance to find a coordinator to run my defense. So I'm doing the defense still. And then Coach Fernandez and Coach Jacobs are running the offense. They're co-coordinating it. And I think they'll be fine. If it won't be the wing T, there'll be a lot of influence from the wing T system than what we do, but we'll be a little more spread out and throwing the ball around a little more because we have a dynamic quarterback that can run the ball and he can throw the ball. We're going to take advantage of our skills. So, you always try to build whatever you're doing around the team that you have. And, we have a pretty athletic quarterback and we got some good skill guys. So I want to try to take advantage of that to make sure that everybody knows we're not the same old team. They'll be able to look at it and tell us we're not the same old team.
I feel like that kickoff classic versus Florida High was probably something that you were able to learn a little bit more about the strengths and weaknesses of your team there. So, what were your biggest takeaways from that game?
To be honest, I wanted our young kids. I felt like our young kids would play better. The varsity in the 2 quarters we played was 7-6. It was a tight game. But I felt like our young kids were going to play better, and they just weren't able to do whatever we thought they would do. We didn't execute. So I'm excited about it. But we got a good group of young kids. Our old guys did about what we expected them to. Like I said, we're dynamic on offense. I think you're going to be able to spread the ball around. And one of my coaches just walked in. Be able to spread the ball around and take advantage of situations. It will be just the one running back, carrying the ball 30 times a game. We're going to be a little more diverse with what we do.
The running game is definitely something I wanted to talk to you about because obviously Trey Jones was such a standout last season. It's hard not to mention, but Jalen Jones also crept in there and performed when he was asked to. So what have you seen from him during the offseason?
Well, we haven't seen him much in the off season. He's just getting starting to practice, and he actually didn't play in the Florida High game. We're trying to see if he's even going to get to play this week. We're hoping he will, but we're preparing like he's not. He needs to show his team that he's ready to be a part of what we're doing instead of worrying about what he's doing. We need to be worried about what we as a team are doing. But yeah, he's a big part of it. If he can come on, we have him, and we have Ronell Moses. We have B.B. Potter coming on as just a skilled guy that can do a lot of things back there. And then Matthew Thomas Matthews is another kid, Texas nickname. And one of my favorites, LaShawn Douglas, is also helping us back there running back. So it could be, about running back by committee, which I'm fine with that too. Like I said, I enjoy what we're doing. I think we're going to have a good, entertaining group of kids over there that'll work hard and give us their best. That's all we can ask.
Hey, and it sounds like the passing game's coming along. It sounds like with your influence, the defense will be playing some top-notch football. So, it'll all come together. Who are some other kids that have stood out to you so far?
I have some young linemen that are really coming on. Ethan Toomey is a 11th grader, is really having a good chance. David Herring, Michael Lundy. The offensive line is doing a fabulous job. Considering they were 10th graders this time last year, I think we're in a good situation. We got little good kids, and they all have a little experience in them. We have some wide receivers that are coming on. Gavin Rudd is a first-year guy. He came out in the spring. He was a baseball kid. Like I said, I love multi-sport athletes, and he was playing baseball. We talked him into coming out, and he has really had a good spring, summer, and fall camp. Ryan Sumner is going to do a fabulous job for us catching the ball. Al Taylor at quarterback. I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses this season. Defensively, we have 3 linebackers, a couple of seniors, Chase Harley and Will Bryce at seniors, and then Bryson Floyd is a junior, are going to be dynamic. Those 3 are my first 3 guys, and then LaShawn Douglas at corner. We got Holden Harris and Trent Strozier in the secondary at safeties are big, rangy, physical kids that we're looking forward to having out there. And then up front on defense is where we have developed. We don't have the stellar guy, Kamen Pope, is really our workhorse in there. But we have Jordell Lewis as an underclassman, doing really good. Trent Crozier, the younger of the Crozier boys, is having a good camp. And then William Sconyers, this will be his third year as a starter, is looking really good right now too. So we're excited about the whole group. I mean, defensively, we had 9 guys returning. Starting 9 returning from last season. So we were really just trying to develop depth. We have 3 safeties to play 2 positions. We have about 5 linebackers to play 3. We have probably 6 or 7 D linemen to play 4. You know what I mean? And I would feel comfortable with any of those guys playing, any of the 3 safeties, any of the 3 corners, any of the 5 linebackers, any of the 7 D linemen. I really would. I mean, they're all hard-working kids. They're doing everything they're supposed to, and we're looking forward to seeing all of them out there on Friday.
Yeah, you mentioned the dual sport athletes, and something else I love so much about the high school level is you can kind of play these kids in different positions, and they can kind of show their athleticism and kind of go around and play all over the field, and it's so fun for me to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned LaShawn Douglas. He'll be when it's all said and done, he'll be a 4-year starter at cornerback, and he's going to play a lot at running back this year. He's going to play running back this year, just a dynamic player playing both sides of the ball. Ryan Sumner's a tremendous athlete, started on the baseball team as a junior, and he's had to help us some on defense, but he's going to have a really good year. I look forward to watching him this year too.
Before we do wrap this up, I have a couple fun ones for you, and then I also, when you were talking to Trisha and I about that app about the weather to go outside and practice, the certain colors, I never thought about that. And it is so hot outside. This summer has been insane. Will you just kind of talk to me about that one more time?
Yeah, it's just precautionary deal where, we're having to look at I didn't know what a wet bulb was until we started camp. But a wet bulb temperature basically is a little more of an accurate reading when you're out there. I think it takes in the humidity and the regular temperature and everything. But there are different zones that they'll let us, if we're in yellow, you can basically have your full practice. You just got to make sure you're watering them every 20 minutes or something. Orange is, you got to be a little more cautious. That's when it starts to get hotter, obviously. And you got to give them a water break every 15 minutes. When it gets into the red, you can only go 2 hours, and you can't be in full pads. You got to be in shorts and helmets, and you have to do a lot of stuff without your helmet. And then when the wet bulb comes back black over 92% or whatever it is, you can't even go outside. So, I mean, that's been unique, and that's across the state and across the country, I'm assuming. NFHS, National Federation of High Schools policies, I believe that everyone's having to follow. But it's understandable. It is hot, but those are things that never before, like I said, I remember it being hot when I was in high school, but my coach didn't know what a wet bulb was, and we just, when it was hot, we kind of drank a bucket. He gave us more water breaks. That was it. But that's what we mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you kind of use common sense there, but it's been hot, and I guess it is a good thing. It's just something as a fan or a viewer myself, it's not something that I would really think about either. So I did find that really interesting. Okay. Last thing before we finish this up, I have to ask you, what do you think of this year's Florida State team?
Oh man, I'm so excited. I really am. I don't even know if I've only missed one home game since 1986. And,
wow.
My son had a flag game at 11. We were supposed to be done by 11:45 and try to get to a noon kickoff. Well, we didn't finish till noon. So my wife and I was like, do we really want to go? And that's the only home game I've missed since I got here for college. So that part, I'm always there. I'm always optimistic. Even, we've had some rough years, but I'm optimistic guy. I know we're going to have issues and ups and downs, but I think this year I really feel like Coach Norvell's got a lot of the same qualities that Coach Bowden had. Maybe I didn't know Coach Bowden as a young coach, but I know he does a lot of the same kind of things, and he's that dynamic of a leader, man. That guy's just full of energy. He's out there running around with them. He's going to be special, and I mean, there's a handful of places in the country that might, in some way, be attractive for somebody to leave Florida State, but I really don't think that any of them are in the same position we are right now. I'm very excited about where we are as a program, and the coaching staff and Coach Norvell, Coach Fuller. I mean, all those guys are just doing a phenomenal job out there.
All right, so Chiles is 5-4 on the season. As I mentioned, they still have one game left against Sun Lake, and Sun Lake is currently 1-8 on the season. So, maybe not as strong of an opponent as Chiles thought that they would be, but hopefully that brings them to 6-4 on the season. But you look at this record, and again, I don't think it properly reflects the season that Chiles had and the talent that they had. So that's one thing, but I think something else you need to take into account when you look at this Chiles team is the character that Coach Ragans is instilling in these young men. I've spoken with their principal, Joe Burgess, a number of times, and just the way that he speaks about Coach Ragans, and you can just tell, over there on the sideline when I'm with them, just listening to them and seeing them, we had 3 of their games this season, and Coach Ragans was phenomenal for me to work with. I'm very, very thankful for him and just, my experience with them this year. So, best of luck to him as that decision starts to kind of creep up on us, whether that interim label will turn into an official label as the head coach of Chiles High School. There is a lot to be proud of if you are a Timberwolves. So congratulations to you guys on the season. And next time, I was going to say next week, but I don't think I'm going to wait a whole week to post this. So next time, we are going to speak with one of the most experienced coaches here in the Big Bend area and maybe the head coach of a state championship team this year. It's Wakulla High School. We're going to talk to head coach Scott Chiles, and they're incredible. They're so good. We had them 4 times on the broadcast, and they won all 4. They actually won all 10 games that they played this year. They're 10-0, and they're really good. They are a serious team, and like I said, this could very well be a state championship team. So we're gonna hear from him. He has an interesting backstory. He has some experience coaching in some other sports, including basketball and women's softball. So that's a story you don't want to miss. And this is another interview I've been sitting on for a long time. So I'm very excited to get it out there. And a huge thank you to Scott Chiles as well. Phenomenal to work with this season. His whole coaching staff has been great, and I have just appreciated them so much. And yeah, they've been fun to be on the sideline for. So that is what's coming up. We'll sit down with Coach Chiles. Thank you guys so much for listening. And once again, I am Emily Peters, and this was the Sports Report.